What's happening, Nerd Squad, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host, Taylor McWaters, and we've brought up Ghost Rider a few times lately, talking about Mephisto and all these cosmic entities getting payback, so we figured we'd just do a video on our most powerful alternate versions of Ghost Rider. You know why you're here, you click the video, let's dive in. Number 10, Carter Slade. The original Ghost Rider was actually referred to as the Phantom Rider. Carter Slade made his first comic book appearance in Ghost Rider 1 way back in 1967. Born in Ohio in the mid-19th century, Carter had aspirations to become a teacher, so he rode from Ohio to Montana. But during this commute, he was shot by guys dressed up as Native Americans. They were a bunch of white dudes, all of them immediately canceled. Comics are very dated now, so things like this happen and you're like, okay, let's just see where the story goes. A doctor named Flaming Star took Carter after that point and prayed, he chanted, he did everything he could to save his life. Now the secret ingredient was glowing dust from a shooting star that he had from earlier and a special cape that he prepared. He saw the shooting star and knew that somebody important was going to come along. Okay, fair. Great call, Flaming Star. Also, great name. Carter's a pretty cool Ghost Rider. I mean, he carries with him these spirit guns, which are way more impressive than spirit fingers. Number 9, Johnny Blaze. Next on the list we have Johnny Blaze, another OG Ghost Rider. He made his first debut in Marvel Spotlight issue 5 in 1971, so 4 years after Carter Slade. Johnny began his mortal days as a stunt performer. He was great at handling a motorcycle, and Johnny became bound to Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance, after he made a deal with Mephisto to save his father, Crash Simpson's, life. You know, one of those classic scenarios we all get into. So now Johnny Blaze and his Hell Cycle control hellfire and inflict it upon others that he deems evil with the help of his pendant stare. Nicolas Cage actually killed it as the Ghost Rider. I would not mind an older, crazier Nick Cage in the MCU. They can do it. Number 8, Caleb. Coming from Ghost Rider Trail of Tears issue 1, Caleb and his family were attacked one night and Caleb was killed by George Regan and his gang. Not a pleasant time at all, not a good origin. But then cut to 2 years later down the road, Caleb returns from the dead. Voila, how alarming. Brought back by some form of spirit of vengeance, in Trail of Tears issue 2, Caleb's friend Travis Parham returns and finds Caleb in his new ability to control corpses and travel through dimensions via hellfire. So things have changed for them. The unlikely duo worked together tracking down other members of Regan's gang for, well, his death. They obviously wanted payback. Caleb is sick, he rides a flaming horse, and he's got a chain. He's got bling, bonus points for some devil bling. Number 7, Robbie Reyes. Making his first appearance in all new Ghost Rider issue 1, Robbie was a young LA mechanic living in Hill Rock Heights. His area was full of gangs, so it wasn't exactly easy for him or his brother Gabriel. Now when Robbie heard of a street race offering the winner $50,000, he just had to compete. All that knowledge in cars, he's like, yo, I'm gonna smoke these fools. All that money too would get him and his brother out of there. So while he was winning, he was in first place during this race, he thought that cops were on his tail, so he booked it and eventually hit a dead end. He got out to explain and whatnot and say, hey, sorry, I'm doing a race, trying to win some money, but then he realized they weren't in fact officers, but it was already too late. They opened fire on Robbie and he unfortunately did not survive. When the attackers went to burn the car, because evidence, they didn't realize that the car was possessed by a ghost and that ghost possessed Robbie, making him a new Ghost Rider. And of course he had to dish out some sweet payback. This guy's extremely powerful. I mean, in Avengers Volume 8, issue 25, Robbie uses his chain manifestation and it's so strong that it ripped a Celestial's arm right out of place. How wild is that? Number 6, Danny Ketch. Danny came around in comics nearly 20 years after Johnny Blaze in Ghost Rider Volume 3, issue 1. He was the son of Barton Blaze and Naomi Ketch. So when he was a teenager, Danny and his sister Barbara hit up a graveyard to get the real Halloween spooky vibe, let's do it, and also to take photos of Harry Houdini's grave. Those two things we always want to do on Halloween. While they were there, two gangs started to fight, one led by Death Watch and the other with henchmen of Kingpin. So Barbara shrieked in fear as everything went down, naturally so. Death Watch heard her, and then she was shot in the chest with an arrow, just horrible stuff. Danny grabbed her and took off. While he was catching his breath, figuring out what to do with his sister, he saw this beautiful motorbike with a glowing gas cap and touched it. He then became a Ghost Rider whose mission was to go after those who shed the blood of the innocent, such as his sister. Number 5, Alejandra Jones. Entering Marvel Comics in Ghost Rider Volume 7, Alejandra was born and trained alongside other orphans in a temple with one specific goal in mind. Why, to simply become one of the next Ghost Riders. Easy peasy. So when Johnny Blaze was convinced to give up the Ghost Rider curse, the Seeker was then resurrected to pick the next Ghost Rider. That's when Alejandra got her big break. She was first sent to Ohio to fight Skadi, the Red Skull's daughter. She lost, but still, she jumped right into the action. It was happening for her. She was a very powerful Ghost Rider nonetheless, but her reign came to an end once Johnny realized that he goofed up and he got his status back. After that point, she was upset. She swore revenge on Johnny, of course, because I'd be upset too if I had that power and then all of a sudden it was taken away from me because some other guy learned a lesson. I'd be like, great, I'm glad you're good. Can I still have that? Number 4, Ghost Rider 2099. Kenshiro Cochran made his first appearance in Ghost Rider 2099, issue 1, back in 1994. He was a hacker who rolled with a gang called the Hotwire Martyrs, residing in Transverse City. This gang was so badass, one day they stole encrypted data after hacking a fiber optic trunk line. Just as intense as a heist, for sure, just as badass. So while this was happening, in comes another gang, even more intimidating, called the Artificial Kids. The kids with a Z, of course, to make it cool. All these cool, nerdy gangs. They actually killed everyone. It was indeed a massacre. It was very intense. No jokes this time. Kenshiro, street name Zero, decided to transfer the encrypted file to his girlfriend during this, and at the same time hack cyberspace to erase all his headwear implants. So Elon Musk's future is basically confirmed. We can look forward to that, nice. Then he wakes up in this new cyberspace called Ghostworks. Zero was sent back to the real world as their agent of change. The machines created a Cybertech 101 warbot, souped it up with nanotech weaponry, camo abilities, self-repair, and of course, a copy of Zero's personality downloaded into his neural net. Very futuristic, different version of Ghost Rider, but still counts. Number 3, Red Hulk Ghost Rider. In the Circle of 4 storyline, Captain America ordered General Ross to go after Venom, and while they went at it, Mephisto's kid, Blackheart, brought part of hell back up to Earth. Lovely. This all takes place in Venom Volume 2, Issue 12. And it's great timing because Red Hulk made an alliance with Venom, X-23, and Ghost Rider. They were all actually killed in this battle. And then in hell, Mephisto did his thing and then offered the heroes another chance, all that devil stuff. And then all they had to do on their part was take down Blackheart. They got the spirit of vengeance and planned to get it to Johnny Blaze so he could become Ghost Rider again. So the Red Hulk at one point had the symbiote and the spirit. How intimidating is that? Number 2, Frank Castle, aka the Rider, coming from the pages of Thanos Volume 2, Issue 13, the Thanos wins storyline. So the Punisher actually died a pretty random way. A piece of debris from a building fell on him, and then he ended up in hell. Okay, that's one way to go. He was pretty eager for revenge, so he signed up a few contracts with Mephisto, became the last Ghost Rider, and then headed back to the battle. Only the thing was, when he returned, the dust had already settled long before. Thanos was gone, the planet was empty, it was a wasteland. The new Ghost Rider was quite bored for many, many years. Even Mephisto stopped answering his calls, and then he started losing his mind. Galactus then eventually came along, and Ghost Rider offered the dead planet in exchange for another go at Thanos. So they traveled the cosmos together. How fun, little duo. They found Thanos, Thanos cut Galactus' head off and promised the Ghost Rider more evil than he could punish in 1,000 lifetimes, so Ghost Rider became his servant for a bit in the comics. Shaking hands with all the devils now, eh Frank? Okay. And finally, number 1, Ghost Spider. Coming from Earth 11638, aka the Perfect World, this Peter Parker has a much brighter beginning. Meaning Uncle Ben actually never passed away and gave the whole great responsibility speech. Instead, he just continues to encourage Peter to become a stronger Spider-Man as he gets older. A little pressure, okay, how does that affect this Peter Parker long term though? Where's the butterfly effect difference in this universe with Uncle Ben being alive? Well, Uncle Ben pushes Peter to abduct Spider-Man from other worlds and absorb their life force via this portal that Parker Technologies proudly created. Now eventually our Earth 616 Spider-Man shows up, they fight it out, our Earth 616 Peter Parker comes out on top with the amazing Spider getting his soul sucked into the machine. The perfect Spider-Man spirit was then trapped in the underworld, and then from here it only gets more strange. Literally, Banner at this time was the current Sorcerer Supreme. So he freed that Peter in his astral form, but Peter absorbed all these spirits of the damned while he was down there. So when he came back, he was now Ghost Spider. What a series of horrible but also cool events. Guys, there you have it. Those are just 10 powerful alternate versions of Ghost Rider. But before we head out, leave us some comments down below on some future lists that you'd love to see, be it people, topics, themes, events, storylines, or just some hot gossip that you may have found out on the street. Comment that too. We love that. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. Peace.